us some money!
Visual novels, by and large, are fucking atrocious. They're either perv-pandering weeb trash or perv-pandering weeb trash whose stories have even more horrific implications that the writers don't consider horrific because they're the kind of sad sacks who write perv-pandering weeb trash. Because I'm not an incestuous pedophile, literally nothing in this genre has interested me for the longest time. So imagine my surprise when one day Steam came up to me and was like, "Hey Michaela, you won't buy a visual novel?" "No, the fuck, thank you." "You sure? This one has lesbian orcs in it."
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
Yeah, I don't know which hand of fate decided to create a visual novel game specifically tailored to me, but the fact remains that Salting the Earth by developer Bitter Berries here combines two of my favorite things, gay women and orcs. So of course, I had to pick this up on sight. I went into this game expecting to enjoy it solely for the fact that it appears completely devoid of all the gross bullshit seen in other visual novels. I mean, just look at the differences in the art direction here. You could tell this game was made by a sapphic woman. Even with those expectations alone, I was not prepared for just how enjoyable this game would actually be. The first thing that stands out is that this is indeed a game, so there are choices that determine where the story goes. I know that sounds like a bare minimum requirement, but let's remember the genre we're talking about here. And what is especially noteworthy is that you can choose how many choices you need to make right from the get-go. You can pick the choose your own adventure mode and have full autonomy on your decision makings and to which ending those decisions take you to, or do a character story run that guarantees that your character ends up with the desired Tuscan dame of your choice. These character story runs are very ideal for your first time, though if you do want to unlock all the endings, you will need to play through Choose Your Own Adventure at least a few times. Oh, side note, there are bad endings in this game, so look out for those. Of course, multiple runs are only fun if the story is good, so how does that hold up? Well, in this game, you are in the control of a Miss Rue Cherawati, a nymph woman who was hired as a cook for an an Oregon mercenary compound. This allows you to meet a vast assortment of lovely Tuscan ladies of many shapes and sizes, and in whose big, strong arms you'd like to spend the night. What's great about this is that unlike most visual novels, Rue here is an actual character. She's cheeky, flirtatious, and rife with her own personal baggage. Even better, Rue's character development varies depending on where your choices take the story. You can have Rue worry if she's ready for commitment in one playthrough, and have her worry that her partner is not ready for commitment in another playthrough. Each of the different events cause Rue's character to shift noticeably and believably in different directions with each ending, which is especially true for the bad ending. It's not just about getting the girl at the end, it's about becoming a new Rue. This whole game is very character driven. There is some world building in this game, but that world building is made to service the characters and their growth, which is what world building is supposed to do. The country this game takes place in has spent the last few years trying to stabilize after a resistance movement overthrew the old government. The merc compound Rue now works in was the lead mercenary force that spearheaded the revolution, so nearly everyone involved in this story has to find their place in the world while the dust is still settling. While there is quite a bit involved in this backstory, Rue's involvement in the military, the whereabouts of the rebellion leader and her family, major spoilers on that front, the question as to what has actually changed as a result of the war, fence-sitting nobles being ostracized from society and so on, the actual politics involved are very vague. To my knowledge, we aren't explicitly told what was wrong with the old government, what structure it had, or how deeply each of the other races in the country were affected by the war. Again though, this is fine because the story isn't about the politics of the issue. It's about the aftermath of the war and how the characters are affected by it. Hell, how deeply involved Rue is with any of the politics can depend heavily on who you choose to romance. Speaking of them, this game does another thing that sets it leaps and bounds above its peers with the romanceable characters. Namely, none of them are your inferior. See, other visual novels, in their perv-pandering weeb nature, tend to make the waifus of the game subservient or in other ways dependent on the blank slate perfect for projection protagonist. An especially heinous example of this behavior involves child coding these romanceable characters. And of course, Salting the Earth, in its majestic, immaculately sapphic nature, has none of that shit. Every character is an actual adult with thoughts and aspirations beyond just fucking Rue, and how she responds to that will determine whether they will want to be with her. And the story doesn't just end with Rue getting together with her chosen Oregon, you actually get to see them in an actual relationship before the character arc ends. It's not just fucking and then credits. You get to see the valid gays being valid gays. God, this game is so fucking good, I wish there was more of it. Though finite content aside, are there any downsides? Well, If I were to think of a big one, I'd say that this game comes dangerously close to committing the sin of othering with its cast. Othering, for those not familiar, is the act of making your only LGBT characters non-human in a story where humans exist. This gives the implicit message that LGBT people cannot live or coexist in human society. It's a bad habit that the LGBT community has ingrained into itself that's tough to break. This game does narrowly dodge that bullet with one of the endings to the game, but it's still a little too close for comfort. If it were up to me, I would have sprinkled a few human lesbians in the story here and there just to be safe. Besides that, I can't think of any major problems with this game besides the fact that it isn't voice acted, which is an understandably valid concern for some. This game was basically developed by a single person, so I'm more forgiving of that issue as well as any other small technical things that don't really add up to serious problems. That said, I do hope you aren't a grammar snob because there are moments in the writing here and there that are probably gonna upset you. And that's it. Yup. This game is the best visual novel on the market with how delightfully sapphic and orc-filled it is, and I absolutely recommend you go play it. And just so everyone's clear where I stand on the inevitable question, Ida is best girl, don't at me.